This is MX Linux 17.1, as I have it installed on my internal drive for production. I've been using it for a couple of days, including making this video. Before I show you around my installation, I want to let you know how I got here. I was using Fedora 29 Xfce, and I'd been using that for a few weeks. I was fairly happy with that. There were a few little glitches like the fluttering tooltips that never seemed to straighten out. But on the whole, it worked well. And I was in the middle of trying to get some work done when I accidentally disabled the touchpad. Now, that touchpad is similar to this one. And you can see that there's a box checked that says, enable this device. Now, I wouldn't advise unchecking that on purpose, but I apparently unchecked it by accident. And with the touchpad disabled, you can essentially do nothing with your graphical user interface. Fortunately, I have a USB mouse, and I was able to plug that in. But with the touchpad disabled, I was unable to configure the touchpad using the mouse. I could only configure the mouse. Now, there is a way of disabling and enabling the touchpad and other devices from the terminal. First, you type xinput space -- list and press enter. You get a list of the various devices, and if you go down here to the Synaptics touchpad, you see that it has an ID of 12. So if you want to disable it, I'm not going to actually do this. I'm not sure if you have to type sudo or not. Space X input space disable, and then you use the ID number 12. Now, I'm not going to actually disable it, all right? If you want to enable it, you would type sudo xinput space enable 12. And that worked a few times. However, eventually it stopped working. I don't know why. The touchpad kept disabling itself, and it was becoming an irritation, and I didn't want to have to use the USB mouse all of the time. So I decided to use one of the Linux distributions I have on external drives. I think I have 7 or 8 on external drives at the moment, to do a complete backup and reinstall the system. But once I had the backup made, I decided to reinstall something else. I decided to install Ubuntu Mate 18.10 because I'm comfortable with that, and I didn't want to do a lot of configuration. And the installation went without incident, and I had no trouble installing 14 packages using the software boutique. It was just beautiful. It ran perfectly. Everything worked. But I noticed that I seemed to have a serious memory leak. It was using 3/4 of my random access memory and a small amount of swap once I started running applications. Now, I don't know the reason for this. I have an installation of Ubuntu Mate 18.10 on an external drive, and I was unable to duplicate this problem. So it may have been some of the software that I had installed. I really didn't have time to research the cause. But I wanted to try to get my work done, so I turned to MX Linux 17.1, which I'm running now, and that has always worked perfectly for me. It's easy to use, well supported. Everything I do runs on MX Linux without any problems, and that's how I got here. This is not the way it looks when you first install it. It has one panel on the left and a different wallpaper, but it's very easy to move the panels around, and it can be configured like any other version of Xfce. So I have a panel across the top with the whisker menu, and I've moved the categories to the left. I've added some launchers. I reconfigured the date and time. I added a shutdown logout sequence over on the right. On the bottom, I have Show Desktop on the left. Minimize all open windows, unminimize them, etc. I have the window buttons or taskbar in the middle, and have a workspace switcher on the right. And of course I have a different background. This is one of the many backgrounds available from MX Linux, and of course you can install your own photos or photos you get from the internet. I think this is the one it came with, but I prefer this one. I've added so many applications I really can't tell you which ones it came with and which ones I added. I have a rough idea. The accessories were already installed. I don't believe I installed any accessories. I did use this conky toggle to turn off the conky. And there's a conky manager if you want to explore the large varieties of conkies available. I just want to note that it uses Featherpad, the Qt-based lightweight text editor, instead of Mousepad, which is usually supplied with Xfce. I installed PyRenamer with no difficulty whatsoever. It has a number of games. I don't play any of them, but I've left them installed. Under graphics, I honestly can't remember whether it came with GIMP or whether I installed it, but in any case, it's available. I installed Image Scan for Linux, which is the scanning utility that's used with my Epson scanner. I installed Google Chrome and Google Earth. It came with Firefox. I installed Audacity, Kdenlive from a Flatpak, MuseScore 2 from a Flatpak, and that's now possible with MX Linux. I'll show you in a minute. I installed Simple Screen Recorder. I believe it came with VLC. I can't remember. And then, of course, there's this huge variety of MX tools. I'm not going to begin to go through those. It's just an extensive list of very useful tools that are somewhat unique to MX Linux. Under Office, I think everything was installed. I may have installed LibreOffice Base. I can't remember. In any case, it's all there. And it's a relatively recent version. It's version 6.0.1.1. Not the absolute latest, but quite recent. And if you want to, you can install the Flatpak version of LibreOffice and get an even more up-to-date version. Under Settings, again, there's so many that I don't even want to begin to tell you about all of them. And the same way under systems. There's a lot here, and it's all very useful. There are several ways of getting to MX Tools. You can get to it from the settings. You can get to it from the menu. And there's just an enormous amount of useful tools. I've used the Codex installer. I've used the Tweak. But the one I've used most is the package installer. Now you notice it's granted permission without asking for my password because I entered my password once before. And this package installer is absolutely marvelous. It starts out with the popular applications. And let me make this larger. They're categorized: audio, browser, children, desktop environments, development, docs, etc. I don't want to go through all of them. Just an enormous amount. Those are the popular applications. Then you can go to the stable repo, and when you do that, it's going to update the cache. And then you see something very similar to what you'd see with Synaptic Package Manager. Then there's the MX test repo, and again, it's updating the cache for that. And you have some things here that are a little more up-to-date than they are in the stable repo. Then you have Debian backports, and it warns you that they might be a little bit unstable, but I don't have any problem with that. Just going to close this warning. And these are the backports. Notice here with LibreOffice you have version 6.1.3, a little more up to date than the one that's installed, but they're close. Then you have Flatpaks. And this has already been updated recently, so it didn't update again. But you can get all of these things from Flatpaks, and of course you can search. I installed MuseScore. About the only thing I don't like here is that it gives the version as stable, and it doesn't give you the actual version number here. But this is from the FlatHub repository. Now, this was not available in MX Linux last time I tried it. App images have always been available. So that's just a quick look around my installation of MX 17.1. So far, I'm extremely happy with it and intend to keep on using it for the foreseeable future. This is XRAM Tech. Thanks for watching.